Hi, this is Kelly Ann with Church Windows. We're going to go ahead and get started with today's webinar. Today we're going to look at reports directory export, or just some of the very basics of beginning reports. We're not really going into building the actual report layout or anything like that. We're going to look at step 1 and step 2 of reports and the different things available on those screens. Before we begin, though, if it's your first time using the GoToWebinar toolbar, there's a little orangish colored arrow on the side. If you click that, it will minimize it so it's not blocking what I'm showing you. To open it back up, just click that little arrow again. You might want to open it at some point because there's a question panel there. And I'm not going to unmute people for questions. However, you can type your questions in that panel. And Josh is also in the room with me listening along. And if you have questions, while I'm showing things, he will go ahead and just answer your question in that question panel. However, you might want to hold off on questions until the end. I might answer it, as I'm working through the material. And at the end, I will open the floor for questions, and I'll read those out loud so everybody can hear the question and the answer. Do keep your questions topical, though. We're not looking at accounting or donations. Today's just membership report. If you have a question that's more involved, I might tell you to give us a call or email us on that, because things that involve your data sometimes are better handled on a support call. All right, so I think that's all the business out of the way. Let me get rid of this PowerPoint. And let me go ahead and click on Church Windows and open that up. The material I'm using today is from one of our workbooks. You do not need the workbook to understand what I'm showing you. However, if you own the workbooks, the current workbooks, or if you're interested in purchasing those, you can follow along if you own them. You can go on our website to Beginning and then click on Training Workbooks. And here you'll see information about the cost and purchasing those. What I'm using today, let me grab my little spotlight here I'll grab my pen. What I'm doing today is out of this workbook, M204, and we're just doing the first 12 pages, which is on membership reporting, reports directory export, just the basics on those screens. So let me go ahead and erase my drawing and get my clicking tool back, and let's close this and go ahead and look at membership reporting on page 2 of M204 if you are following along in the book. On the opening screen of membership, there's 2 different ways we can access the reports. This is what we call our portal screen. At the top, we have different buttons, command buttons or words that if we click on these, notice below the buttons will change. What we're concerned with here is the 4th word, report/export, or 4th set of words. Notice below when I click on that, I have a plethora of different options. We have, if I click Reports Export in the very first option, Reports and Labels, then I can choose to do a report, where I can also do a directory or an export, or labels. If I click this Reports Directory Export in the upper left, that would be the same thing. Go ahead and click on it and show you. Brings up step 1 of reports. That is the same thing as clicking right here in the middle of my screen, the shortcut. All these little images in the middle are shortcuts of most common use functions. If I click on reports here, that takes me to the same place as clicking on people, reports and labels, reports directory export. If I want one of the canned, as I like to call them, canned or pre-programmed reports, such as birthday, anniversary, groups and skills, or attendance, you actually have to click Reports Export and then this button here at the top. I had a call last week where it's the first time in over 10 years, someone was clicking Reports here in the shortcut, then going up to birthday and clicking on it, and wondering why this didn't change to the birth date report. Because once you click Reports in the shortcut, you have said you're going to Reports. If you want the birthday or any of these preset reports up along the top, then you'd click on Reports Export and then Birthday, and then choose Reports Directory Export. And notice the canned or program reports are preset. The birth date automatically opens up with the search criteria set to look for a birth date in the current month. I could change that if I want. Anniversary opens up to the marriage date in November. Groups classes expects you to put in a group class criteria, and it automatically opens to that screen. If I cancel this and hit next, it tells me for this group class report, I have to have a selection that includes groups classes. Remember, this is just the group skills report. Or if I go to attendance, that's different reports we can do for attendance. Let's go back to the basic membership report though. If you look at the bottom of page 2, it does talk to you about the different reports, the birthday, anniversary, groups, attendance. We could also do visits reports. Under other, we have our blank data entry, or we could send email. Those are all considered different report functions. So first, you're going to decide what information you want on the report. Do you want one of the pre-programmed reports, a blank report, something about visits or attendance for email? Or if you just want a basic report, then we can go to Reports Export and Reports and Labels, or Reports Directory Export, or we can click it in the middle of the screen. Excuse me. If you're following along on the book, I'm on, oops, I got to remember, I double-sided these. I'm on page 3. The very first step for reports is who is going to appear on the report. So I'm not picking what's going to be there, like the different fields. Step 1 is simply narrowing down to who I want on the report. So maybe I want people with a certain status code. So upper left is where I can enter criteria. If I look at this drop-down list, it's all the different fields available in membership, in the records. If I want a certain field, I can start typing that. Whoops, how did I chose that by accident? I can start typing the word or the field I need, and it will narrow it down to what I'm typing, so you don't have to scroll that huge list. So maybe I'm going to choose status code, and this looks a little different from the book because they've changed some of the fields, how they pop up since I wrote these books. So here, all I do is I just check off the ones I want and click Add to Selection, and it automatically pops those in. Now, if you look in the book, let me get a sip of coffee here real quick. So quick coughing in your ear, hopefully. Okay, if we look at the top of page 4, you can see how when you choose status code the old way, it showed the different status code fields right here on the screen instead of popping up a separate window. If you're in that version, then you just choose your different ones, and then you would click plus selection. The little window that pops up automatically does the plus selection for me. But here, as we showed in the book, we do need to click plus selection. And then we could do an and or an or if we needed to. If that's all we need, we can leave it at that. But maybe we want people who also are a certain age range. So we can click and. We have and or in between here in the middle where you can add more criteria. So we'd say and now we're going to go back up and we want age maybe between 18 and 50. So I can put in my criteria and plus selection. Let's take a look. So I built some criteria. If I wanted to change the order of it, I can use these arrows to move things up or down. If I click next right now, it's going to tell me it can't begin with an and. So I want to make sure I put the and or in between things. I could clear my selection if I wanted to, or if I needed to remove a line, I added something by accident, I could highlight the line and click remove. We want that in there, so let me go ahead and add status code back. Put those back in and add selection. Now, if your criteria or your search or the people you're looking for, it involves donations, you can add donations information here. Up along the top right, we can add some giver number information. We can also choose from our different categories in our people file, member or visitors, or if you've created other categories, you would see those here as well. And you can choose if you want to include people you've marked inactive. That formerly was a field called reason for termination. It changed in one of the more current versions to be called inactive. Or if you want the membership group names or any of your donation individual or group givers to be on the report, you can check here. These are not limited by a search you do here because these different things, membership groups, individual or group givers, they don't have an actual membership record in the people files. So they would just appear regardless if you check those. Let's go ahead and look at the next tab. We have giving and pledging. Giving and pledging is where you can indicate different donations criteria. Under giving, we can include all, regardless of whether they gave or not or didn't. We could ask for only people who gave, and if we put the dot here, it opens this up to where we can choose to put a dollar amount, a range, or no upper limit. Or we can ask for people who did not give. Same thing under pledging. We have all those criteria available. If you ask for only those who pledged, it does open up to let you check some of these different boxes, the different frequencies, or people who have or have not met their pledge. The default, though, here is to look at all giving and all pledging. It assumes because we're in membership, you want everyone, but you can narrow down to donation, giving, pledging criteria. Upper right, we can choose if we want just people who receive a statement or don't. Default is for everyone. Same with gives for family. The default is all, but we could ask for just people who give together or people who give as individuals. Change your date range here if you need to, and if it involves numbers, envelope numbers, you can say what number you want as of what start date. Also, if you want to include donations as part of your criteria, and I'm on page 6, we can look at different accounts or campaigns. All accounts are normally looked at, but you could highlight accounts over here and move accounts over to only look at certain accounts. Or you could select a specific campaign if you were concerned with pledging. I'm going to move those back over because we're not going to actually look at those. And last but not least, we have the sort tab. And this is where you can choose what order you want things to print in your report, like alphabetically, zip code order, birth date order. How do you want it sequenced? I don't know. People have a hard time with this tab. People, I think, look at it and think this is where you say what fields you want on the report. But no, this is what order it will be in, what sequence it will be in. If you want it alphabetic, make sure you come here and check that you want it first, last, alphabetic. Now notice on the People tab there's a little asterisk. That indicates I've done something on this tab than the normal default. If I did something over on Giving, Pledging, change my date range, one of those who did not pledge. Oh, I don't know why it's not showing. It should show a little asterisk there to show that I entered something there. All right. So if we wanted to search or save the criteria, maybe this is something you use often, you'd go across the different tabs and make your choices. And then along the bottom here, I can click this little save icon, save selections. And put in a name to name my search criteria. Now the search criteria is only looking at step 1. It's not saving something I choose in the future on step 2. I know that sounds silly the way I said that, but I've had many people who are shocked that when they get to step 2, it's not automatically choosing the report they wanted or that they chose the last time. All this saves is step 1, what you search for and what you picked on the different tabs for step 1. So if I say OK here, let me go ahead and exit. I'll leave an exit membership. Now if I go back into membership and into reports, we should see down here along the bottom my save selection of status age search. And if I click on that, it's automatically putting my criteria in. And it even left those. I'm going to put these back to all in all. So I'm making a change on my save selection now. And if I hit next, it sees that I made a change, and I do want to change that because I wanted to look at giving all and pledging all. So you can tell it no if you don't want it to save the change you made on a save search, or if you want it to save it, say yes. And now we're moving on to step 2. This is at page 10 of the book. Step 2, if you look along the top, this is select the report layout or format. So we've already picked the people we want. That's all we did on step 1 is pick who we want to report on. On step 2 now, we're picking pretty much what we want on the report. What do I want it to go pull off those records for the people I selected on step 1? Now I'm going to, if you click in the upper left, you see different reporting options. I'm going to click on basic. Notice as I click on the different options in the upper left, you're going to see over to the right, my report options will change. So a basic, Go to all information, I have almost the same. Custom is a kind of directory. And directory, I choose that. Those are almost the same. But then if I go to mail merge export, I have export options instead, and the same for directory export. Let's look at, excuse me, basic. The basic report is a columnar report where you pretty much set the fields by clicking on new. I'm just going to call it test. And once you click new, or you can choose a layout you already have, but if I click new, that is then going to bring up my column selector where I can tell it exactly what I want on the report by going back and forth. Now, I'm getting a little more involved than the book does for these pages. All information is the same kind of report. Notice if I go into edit, I should show you that real quick for this. If I go into edit for the all information report, I'm very limited with what I can do. If you've been in here for your directory before, then you know over on the right, I can usually add membership fields. Not with the basic and the all information report. You're really going to be working more with the columns. In the basic and the all information, I can go in here and I can, change my font, whether it's italicized or bold, and some basic page settings, but I can't really change too much of what is on the report. Can work a little bit at the top in the page header, but the detail, that is set by me choosing a basic report, and that then allows me to go more into selecting fields with a column selector. Same for all information. The custom and directory both have the same layouts available. And custom and directory, notice as soon as I choose custom or I choose directory, it's a little more involved. I can't just go in and choose columns. This is where it gets a little more advanced, but we can help you with this. And we do have videos and documents that go into great detail and show you how to work with this. I'm not going to show you how to work with this today. But here you can lay out fields and get really specific and create a specific layout that isn't necessarily columns. You can do columns, but it's a little more involved. And custom works the same way. I can go into custom, but it's a little different than a directory. A custom treats the people we search for as individuals, and they will have an individual listing, whereas if I choose directory, notice it narrowed down my list because it's looking for people where I've said, yes, include these people on the directory, and they have a directory report order, which is important for all of my reports at times. There's something else I was going to tell you, and it just went right on my head. But yeah, these two are a little more involved. Oh, directory groups people as a family. So instead of having a separate listing for every individual in the family, you'll have one listing showing all the people in that family that you've said to include in a directory. Mail merge export and the directory export are both almost the same. Mail merge export, everybody's treated as separate people. Everybody gets one line and raw data exported out if you choose to export information out of Church Windows, whereas a directory export, you're exporting out of Church Windows, but it specifically looks for people that you said, yes, include on directory, and they have a directory report order, and it groups those all in one line of that raw data. If you were to open an Excel, they would all be going across in one line as a family. You'd have, the primary, secondary, children in a column, whereas mail merge export, everybody's a separate line, everybody's individual. It doesn't group as a family. Now for each of these, we have different layouts. And the program comes with layouts. You saw me make that real quick test one. The basic comes with what's called the basic columnar report. And that just gives you, I'm just going to quickly show you these because I'm running out of time. I talk too much. It's name, address, and phone number. And that's already set up for you. If you want different things, though, you can click on new and create a name, and then go in and add your columns just how you'd like. The all information report comes with a basic all information template, which pretty much is pulling all the information off the record. Custom and directory, let me just show you directory real quick. We have several formats, so I can't go through and show you all of these today. The most common is the 3-column classic directory. And it's just a 3-column directory with the name of the family members I've indicated I want in the directory, their address, and Wow, I don't have many I put. Oh, I did a search at the beginning. That's why I'm not getting all my directory people. Because remember, I just asked for status and a certain age. So if I took that search away, I'd probably have a very full directory. Actually, I'm going to take that away because I want to show you a full directory. Let's clear all because it looks much prettier. Much prettier when we see everyone in the directory. There we go. So there is a standard directory, 3-column directory, but there's all kinds of formats in there, so take a look. I'm already at 12:20. I talked too much. If you need to leave, I apologize. You can go ahead and exit. I'm going to continue and finish off here. We only have a page and a half. So again, I encourage you, take a look at all the different layouts available before you just settle on one. Take a look at them. You can click print and it doesn't send anything to the printer. Mail merge export and directory export. There are no formats for that because you're going to create your own. You're going to click new and then tell the program what fields you want it to export. Now notice over to the right, upper right, when I click the different options here, I have different report options over to the right side. I'm sorry, when I click an option on the left, I have different report options and page break options over to the right. So here we see we can include category codes, uppercase last name. You can link people from families. Maybe you have a divorced family and you want to link the kids. You can do that now in the program. So do you want to include those linked family members? Include a year on birth date, only for the kids. Some grouping and page break options, but again, notice those change. With the all information report, you can choose to print empty fields, so that is one thing that's different from the basic. When I choose custom though or directory, I have the same options available where I just have grouping and page break options. Mail merge export or directory export is completely different because this is where the export options are where once I start setting up my export, this is where I would choose to tell it where to export, what kind of delimiter I need, and then continue on with my export. All right, the last thing I want to show you here, well, I forgot to mention, if you need to look for somebody's name here, make sure they're here. You can use the select box, to find them. And then it will highlight them once you look for them. And there's a checkbox here. If you don't want to print somebody's name, maybe even though they're part of your search, you decide you don't want them. You can uncheck them, or maybe you want to uncheck everybody and just check a few. I can click uncheck print for all, or I can click check print for all to check everyone. Then last but not least, here we have organization info. This is what prints at the top of usually a basic report. Right now we only have the 41st Church of Anytown. We don't have anything filled in. So here, this is pulled from your system information that you fill in when you first open the program. You're prompted to fill that in. It's under settings, special functions settings, on the opening screen under system info. But I can access that right here by clicking the plus sign to add, or if I need to edit what's already there, I can click the little pencil. And here's where that is stored. All right. That is everything I wanted to show you for reports. Again, it's just a very basic, what does step 1 and step 2 do?